is Sarah Lloyd-Winder, and my story is called Betty Stoggs. This is an ancient Cornish tale that can be found in many different collections of Cornish stories about the fairies, the elves, the spirits, the traditions. So here is my story. Betty Stoggs was an only child and knew from when she was tiny that she would inherit everything, and she was very proud of that. But you see, being an only child meant that she didn't get to learn all those things big families learn. The girls get to learn how to look after the babies, how to do all the housework, having to cope with all those different combinations of things. No, Betty's parents were very proud of her, even though they were quite poor. They had a scrappy bit of land. But as nothing would be divided, everything would go to her. She was quite a catch. And when she set her eye on Jan, oh, well, that was it. But he was canny. His parents had told him, oh, they have nobody else to give anything to. Hold out a bit. So he did. And when they got married, they got a little house and a bed. And, well, the best of all was the watch. Oh, he was so proud of the big watch. A personal watch, a fob watch, his own. Well, the marriage took place and they set up their home, and soon Betty was going to have a baby. But Betty didn't know how to cope with a baby. And every person who has a baby, there are times when it becomes so overwhelming, it's impossible. The baby cries, the baby cries, the baby cries. And you have to look after the baby, and you have to cook at the same time, because you have to cook for your husband and make food for him. Betty was a terrible cook, and overwhelmed with baby and cooking and housework. Well, she fell prey to the lace woman. The lace woman would come from house to house, collecting lace from ladies who made it by hand. Lace, oh, it was a luxury item, handmade, and women would make a little money hand making their own lace. But when the lace lady came, at the bottom of her basket, underneath all the piles of lace, was a little bottle. Oh, we here call it mother's ruin, gin. And so when the lace lady came, they would sit and have a little bit of gin. And the world seemed a better place to Betty. One afternoon was worse than any she had known so far. Oh, the bread, well, the bread had burnt into a lump of blackened something. The potatoes, oh, the potato peelings were in the bucket, and the baby was screaming and screaming, and Jan had left his watch on the dresser. Left it there so that she could use it to time the bread, in the hope that she might get better at making bread. But now she looked at the watch and the screaming baby and the screaming baby and the watch, and she just gave the baby the watch, and it worked for 10 minutes. And then the baby just dropped the watch in the bucket with the potato peelings and the fish heads. And she didn't realise for more than 5 minutes, because the lace lady had been earlier, and she felt a little bit more relaxed. And then she saw the watch and she panicked. She saw Jan's precious watch, and all she could think of was it's been in the bucket with the potato peelings and the fish heads. And she was rushing into the bedroom trying to pick out all the fish bones and clean it and wipe it and wipe it and clean it. And she forgot totally about the baby. And the baby stopped screaming and the baby went quiet, and that was lovely. So she forgot about the baby and she came back, and the watch didn't look too bad, and she stuck it on the dresser, and then she looked round. There was no baby. It was so quiet because there was no baby. There was no baby anywhere. And out she went screaming into the community, shouting and screaming, and soon everybody came running and everybody was looking. Jan came home from work and he got the men out looking, and they looked and they looked and they looked and they looked late into the night till it was dark. And then they went to bed, saying they would get up at dawn. And up they all got, the whole community out looking for the baby. And one of the ladies found it. It wasn't that screaming, dirty, slimy, snot-ridden baby that everybody had seen for weeks beforehand. No. This was a happy, joyful, smiley, chortling baby. Oh, yes, somebody had heard it singing to itself, as only babies can. And when she picked up the baby, oh, it was so clean. Wearing silks and satins, wrapped in beautiful clothes, and every layer was full of the scent of beautiful summer herbs, of rose bay willow herb, of frothy summer smells of elderflower. It was beautiful, and the baby was happy. And that's when the community looked at each other, and the aunties, for there are always aunties, aren't there, looked at one another and took a breath and realized that some of the fault was their own. For many say it takes a village to raise a child. And you know what? They hadn't been looking. Everybody always had so many brothers and sisters that they never worried until a bit later. But Betty had no brothers and sisters. And suddenly that little family was wrapped up in aunties. And I can't say they lived happily ever after, because I'm sure with Betty's ability not to be able to cook, there were still problems. But now the community looked on, and Betty always said, when I lost my baby, the fairies came, and they took her, and they washed her, and they cleaned her, and they placed her back just for me, and I am blessed by the fairies, so I must look after my baby now. And that, perhaps, is a happy ending. And that is the tale of Betty Stoggs from Cornwall by Sarah Lloyd-Winder from Hertfordshire, just north of London. Thank you very much.